The breaking point. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the Earth Defense Station vigilant, watching the gleaming ships of the Galactic Assembly's diplomatic fleet depart. Her weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass, lines of exhaustion etched deeply around her eyes. This had been the fourth routine inspection of Earth's military capabilities in as many months. The Assembly claimed these visits were standard procedure for all member worlds. But Chen knew better. No other civilization endured such frequent scrutiny. No other world had to justify its right to defend itself constantly. Then again, no other current member of the Assembly came from what they classified as a death world. Admiral, her eye assistant's voice chimed softly. We're receiving reports from New Haven Colony. They're experiencing catastrophic environmental system failures. Chen's jaw tightened. New Haven was humanity's most ambitious extrasolar colony, home to over 2 million people. Its environmental systems were triple redundant, designed to withstand anything short of a direct nuclear strike. "Show me," she commanded. Holographic displays materialized around her, streaming real-time data from the colony. Life support systems were failing in cascading sequences, too precise to be natural. Temperature regulators, oxygen scrubbers, and water purification units were shutting down one by one, each failure triggering the next in a deadly chain reaction. Pattern analysis, Chen asked, though she already suspected the answer. 99.8% probability of deliberate sabotage, the AI confirmed. The failure sequence contains signatures matching Proxian technical standards. The Proxians, of course. They'd been the loudest voice against allowing humans to expand beyond their solar system, claiming that primitive Deathworlders couldn't be trusted with colonial expansion. Now they thought they could quietly eliminate 2 million humans and claim it was a tragic accident. Chen's hands clenched into fists. For decades, humanity had played by the Assembly's rules. They'd accepted the restrictions, the inspections, the condescension. They'd smiled politely while being called barely civilized, had accepted trade terms that bordered on exploitation, had turned the other cheek when their ships were accidentally fired upon in disputed territory. All because Earth's leadership believed that patience and diplomacy would eventually earn humanity the respect it deserved. All because they thought proving themselves better than the stereotypes would change minds. "Get me a secure line to the Security Council," Chen ordered, her voice steel. "And begin implementing Protocol Omega." "Admiral." The AI hesitated. "Protocol Omega has not been authorized by the civilian government. It would violate 17 different Assembly treaties." "The Assembly just tried to murder 2 million of our people," Chen replied. "I'd say that violates their end of those treaties. Make the call." As she waited for the connection, Chen watched the diplomatic fleet disappear into hyperspace. They had no idea what they'd just triggered. The Assembly thought they knew humanity because they'd studied Earth's hostile environment, analyzed human biology, and cataloged human technology. But they'd missed something crucial. Yes, Earth was a death world. Yes, it had forged humanity in radiation and poison, in extreme temperatures and natural disasters, in predators and plagues. But Earth's greatest gift to humanity wasn't physical resilience. It was rage. The same fury that had driven early humans to hunt creatures 3 times their size to extinction. The same wrath that had fueled revolutions and toppled empires. The same burning anger that had carried humanity through countless disasters, wars, and near extinctions. The Assembly was about to learn why every predator on Earth, every hostile environment, every natural disaster had failed to wipe out humanity. They were about to discover what happened when you pushed the descendants of Earth's apex predators too far. The communication system chimed. Security Council standing by. "Admiral." Chen took a deep breath. This call would change the course of human history. There would be no going back. "Patch them through," she ordered, "and send an emergency evacuation alert to New Haven. Tell them help is coming." The holographic faces of Earth's Security Council appeared before her, their expressions grim. They'd already seen the data from New Haven. "Ladies and gentlemen, Chen began. The assembly has just made their biggest mistake. They thought we were civilized because we chose to be. They're about to learn we're civilized because we know exactly what we're capable of when we're not. The council members looked at each other, decades of frustration and carefully contained anger visible on their faces. They all knew this day had been coming. They'd prepared for it, hoped they'd never need those preparations, but ready, nonetheless. The council president nodded slowly. You have authorization for Protocol Omega. Admiral, show them why humanity's greatest weapon isn't our strength or our technology. Chen's lips curved into a grim smile. It's our memory. Silent preparation. Deep beneath the Himalayas, in a facility unknown to the Galactic Assembly, Dr. Maya Patel watched her life's work come to fruition. The quantum fabrication chamber hummed with energy as it produced another batch of what she called evolutionary steel, metal that could learn from damage and adapt its molecular structure in response. The assembly had always dismissed human metallurgy as primitive. They didn't understand that humans had turned that perceived weakness into an advantage. While they focused on examining human alloys for known compositions, they never thought to check for the neural responsive nanites integrated into every molecule. Status report, Maya called out to her team, scattered around the massive underground chamber. Batch 17 shows 98% adaptation rate. Her assistant responded, eyes fixed on holographic data streams. The metal's learning curve is exactly where we need it. Maya nodded, satisfaction mixing with grim determination. When Protocol Omega had been activated 3 days ago, facilities like this across Earth had shifted into maximum production. The assembly thought they knew humanity's military capabilities. They had no idea. In orbital shipyards masked by advanced stealth systems, vessels were being retrofitted with technologies the assembly believed were centuries beyond human capability. They'd never realized that humans had deliberately maintained 2 separate technological tracks, one for show and one held in reserve. Colonel James Rivera stood in one such shipyard, watching automated systems install quantum-locked weapon systems into the destroyer Humanity's wake. The ship's original weapons had been adequate by assembly standards. Its new ones would rewrite the rules of space combat. Time to completion, he asked the shipyard's eye. 4 hours, 17 minutes until this vessel is ready, the AI responded. Full fleet refit will be complete in 28 hours. Rivera checked his tactical display. The Proxians still hadn't realized their sabotage of New Haven had been detected. Their ships maintained standard patrol patterns. Their bases operated on normal schedules. They thought they were safe. The emergency evacuation of New Haven was being conducted under the cover story of a system-wide drill. 2 million humans were being quietly moved to safety while making it appear as though the colony was operating normally. The assembly's arrogance worked in humanity's favor. They didn't believe humans capable of such a massive deception. In Washington, D.C., General Sarah Chen's sister, Dr. Lisa Chen, led another critical aspect of Protocol Omega. As Earth's foremost xenobiologist, she had spent years studying the biological weaknesses of various assembly species. Not for biological warfare. Humans remembered their own history too well to consider that option, but for non-lethal countermeasures. The sonic disruption frequencies are confirmed, she reported to the Security Council. We can incapacitate Proxian neural systems without causing permanent damage. Their entire crew complement will be unconscious before they realize what's happening. The council members nodded in approval. Humanity would defend itself, would demand respect, but would not descend to the level of those who had tried to murder their colonists. They would win without becoming monsters. Across Earth and its solar system, similar preparations continued in secret. Quantum communication networks, invisible to assembly detection methods, coordinated the effort. Ships were positioned, weapons primed, strategies refined. But beyond the military preparations, humanity's greatest weapons were being readied: innovation, adaptability, and the ultimate survival trait, the ability to appear weak when you were strong. The assembly thought they had humanity figured out. They saw the obvious traits, the physical endurance, the aggression, the tribal loyalty. But they missed the subtle ones. The creativity that turned disadvantages into advantages. The patience that could span generations. The ability to learn from every failure, every setback, every defeat. Most importantly, they had missed the warning signs. They should have wondered why humans accepted unfair treaties with such apparent meekness. Should have questioned why a species evolved on a death world would allow themselves to be treated as inferiors. Should have asked themselves what humanity was hiding behind their diplomatic smiles. In her office at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Chen reviewed the final preparations. The evacuation of New Haven would be complete in 12 hours. The fleet would be ready 6 hours after that. The assembly was about to learn the true meaning of Deathworlder. Not just a species that survived a harsh world, but one that learned to thrive in it. Send word to all commands, she ordered. Operation Memory begins in 18 hours. Let's show the galaxy why you should never mistake patience for weakness. As her orders spread through the quantum network, humanity's forces moved into their final positions. The assembly had no idea that their supposed routine inspection 3 days ago had been their last chance to prevent what was coming. They had looked at humanity's visible military capabilities and seen exactly what humans had wanted them to see. They were about to discover what humanity had been hiding. The first strike. The Proxian High Command's orbital station hung above their homeworld like a jewel, its crystalline structure reflecting the light of 3 suns. Inside, Fleet Commander Zixtol reviewed the latest reports from their New Haven operation with satisfaction. The human colony systems were failing exactly as planned, and the primitive Deathworlders hadn't even realized it was sabotage. His smugness evaporated when the station's lights went dark. "Report," he barked, multiple eyes blinking in confusion. "Unknown energy signature," his subordinate responded, mandibles clicking nervously. "Our systems are. They're being rewritten somehow. The code is alive." Before Zixtol could respond, every screen in the command center lit up with the same message. "Greetings from Earth. We remember." Across Proxian space, their entire defense network went dark simultaneously. Quantum locked backdoors, installed months ago in their systems by seemingly primitive human trade software, activated in perfect synchronization. The proud Proxian fleet found itself blind, deaf, and paralyzed. That's when the human ships appeared. They didn't emerge from hyperspace. They simply materialized, as if they'd been there all along, hidden behind veils of bent light and twisted space-time. Leading the fleet was the Humanity's Wake, its hull gleaming with evolutionary steel that rippled like liquid mercury. Admiral Chen stood on its bridge, watching tactical displays show the perfect execution of humanity's first strike. Status of sonic weapons. "Ready, Admiral. All Proxian ships and stations are within range." Chen nodded. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Let them hear us." The message was simple, delivered in perfect Proxian. "You tried to murder 2 million of our people. We could do the same to you. But we're better than that. You have one chance to surrender." The Proxian ships, their crews already dizzy from precisely targeted sonic pulses, received the transmission with growing horror. They were discovering that every piece of primitive human technology they'd dismissed had been a carefully crafted Trojan horse. Every trade agreement had been an opportunity for infiltration. Every diplomatic concession had positioned humanity exactly where they needed to be for this moment. In the Assembly's central chambers, the emergency alarms were sounding. Reports flooded in from across Proxian space. Their entire civilization had been effectively paralyzed in less than an hour, without a single shot fired. The supposedly primitive humans had executed a strategic masterpiece that would be studied for centuries. But humanity wasn't done teaching lessons. As the Assembly representatives gathered in panic, their own systems suddenly activated, displaying detailed evidence of the Proxian sabotage of New Haven. Every conversation, every planning session, every order had been recorded and archived. The humans had known about the plot from the beginning, but had allowed it to proceed just long enough to gather irrefutable proof. "We tried diplomacy." Admiral Chen's voice echoed through the assembly chambers. "We tried patience. We tried being the better species. Now you face a choice. Acknowledge humanity as equals and help us build a better galaxy, or learn exactly how creative Deathworlders can be when they stop playing nice." The assembly erupted into chaos. Some representatives demanded immediate military action against Earth. Others, seeing the elegant efficiency of humanity's response, called for acceptance of their terms. A few simply sat in stunned silence, realizing that they had catastrophically underestimated the species they'd dismissed as primitives. Back on the humanity's wake, Chen received the first surrender signals from Proxian ships. The sonic weapons had left their crews unable to resist, but also completely unharmed, a demonstration of both humanity's power and their restraint. "Begin medical assistance to the Proxian crews," Chen ordered. "Show them how Deathworlders treat their prisoners." The rescue ships moved in, their crews ready to demonstrate that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to win fights, it was their capacity to show mercy after winning. Each medic treating the Proxians wore a patch that read, "From Earth, with love." In Proxian script, a reminder that humans never forgot either their friends or their enemies. As news of the bloodless conquest of Proxian space spread across the galaxy, other species began to reevaluate their assumptions about humanity. The Assembly's dismissal of primitive Deathworlders had led them to miss something crucial. Earth hadn't just made humans strong, it had made them smart. And now the galaxy was learning that the most dangerous predator isn't the one that kills without mercy. It's the one that shows mercy when it doesn't have to. Ripples across the stars. In the aftermath of humanity's demonstration of power, the Galactic Assembly's perfectly ordered society began to fracture. The Drachnid, a species of silicon-based beings who had suffered similar discrimination centuries ago, were the first to break ranks. Their ambassador, a crystalline entity named Sexavrath, requested an immediate audience with Earth's diplomatic corps. Ambassador Elena Santos sat across from Sexavrath in the newly constructed Earth Embassy on neutral ground. The chamber's architecture deliberately mimicked a cave system, making the Drachnid feel more at ease. It was another subtle reminder of humanity's attention to detail. "Your species," Sexavrath's translator conveyed, crystalline fragments shifting to create speech, has demonstrated something we thought impossible. You've shown that evolution on a death world doesn't have to lead to brutality." Santos smiled diplomatically. "We learned early in our history that the strongest warrior isn't always the one who survives. Sometimes it's the one who knows when not to fight." The Drachnid ambassador's crystals pulsed with agreement. "The Assembly dismissed us once too, claimed silicon-based life was too inflexible for true civilization. We see ourselves in your struggle." Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. The Mursk, felinoid engineers whose technological innovations have been consistently undervalued by the Assembly, approached Earth with proposals for joint research projects. The Genri, a species of gaseous beings who had faced centuries of housing discrimination in Assembly space, offered their unique expertise in environmental systems. Admiral Chen watched these developments from the humanity's wake, which had become a symbol of Earth's new position in the galaxy. The ship's evolutionary steel hull had already adapted to 3 attempted assembly scanning methods, becoming more resistant with each probe. "Another diplomatic request, Admiral," her AI reported. "The Collective of Free Worlds wishes to establish formal ties with Earth." The Collective, a loose alliance of minor species that had never gained full Assembly membership, had been watching humanity's rise with great interest. Their representatives saw in humanity's actions a possible path to their own recognition. But not everyone was celebrating humanity's emergence. The Assembly's core worlds, led by the Proxians' few remaining allies, began mobilizing their forces. Their ships gathered at strategic points, a show of force meant to remind humanity of the Assembly's superior numbers. They hadn't learned their lesson. Dr. Lisa Chen's xenobiology team had already developed countermeasures for every major assembly species. Maya Patel's evolutionary steel was being shared with Earth's new allies, strengthening their defenses. And in the shadows of uncharted space, human stealth ships maintained their silent vigil, watching, waiting, recording. "They're planning something," Colonel Rivera reported during the daily security briefing. "Assembly military channels are encrypted, but their commercial traffic shows patterns consistent with war preparation." Admiral Chen nodded, unsurprised. "And our new friends, the Drachnid, have already pledged their crystal fleets to our cause. The Maersk's engineering corps is adapting our quantum technologies to their ships. The Genri are helping us develop next-generation environmental weapons." "And the collective?" Rivera smiled. "They're asking for training. They want to learn how we hid our true capabilities for so long. Apparently, they have some innovations of their own they've been keeping secret." The revelation sparked murmurs around the briefing room. If other species had been playing the same game as humanity, hiding their true potential while appearing to accept assembly dominance, the galaxy's balance of power was about to shift dramatically. Ambassador Santos, attending virtually from the Earth Embassy, spoke up. "We're receiving back-channel communications from mid-tier assembly worlds. They're not ready to openly support us, but they're providing intelligence. The assembly's unity is cracking." Chen studied the strategic display, watching the growing network of alliances and secret contacts spread across the galaxy like a web. Humanity had never intended to stand alone against the assembly. They had planned for this moment, seeded potential friendships across the stars, waited for the right time to show other oppressed species that resistance was possible. "The assembly called us primitive," Chen mused, "but they never asked why a species that evolved on a death world would value cooperation over conflict. They never wondered why we put so much effort into understanding other species' needs and cultures." "Because Earth taught us something they never learned," Santos replied. "In a hostile universe, your strongest weapon isn't your ability to fight. It's your ability to make friends who will fight beside you." As if to emphasize her point, new signals began appearing on the tactical display. Ships of various designs and origins, emerging from hiding places across assembly space. The ignored, the underestimated, the dismissed. All of them revealing their true strength, inspired by humanity's example. The assembly had feared what humanity might become if given the chance to grow stronger. They should have feared what would happen when humanity showed others how to claim their own strength. A new dawn. The Grand Assembly Hall, once a symbol of established power, now stood transformed. Where ornate thrones had once elevated the superior species above others, a circular arrangement of equal seats now filled the chamber. At the center, a holographic display showed real-time updates from the ongoing relief efforts on New Haven, where multiple species worked together to rebuild the sabotaged colony. Admiral Chen, now Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Coalition, watched a Drachnid crystalline engineer work alongside a Maersk technician to install improved environmental systems. The sight would have been unthinkable just months ago. The latest report from the Transition Committee, her AI informed her, projecting the data into her field of view. The dissolution of the old assembly was proceeding smoothly, with former power blocks reorganizing into cooperative sectors based on mutual interests rather than species hierarchy. The Proxians, humbled but not destroyed, had become unexpected advocates for change. Their experience of humanity's mercy had profound effects on their society. Their new leadership, composed primarily of younger progressives, had embraced reform with surprising enthusiasm. Ambassador Santos, Chen called out to her colleague, who was deep in discussion with a group of Genri representatives. "The collective's proposal is ready for review." Elena Santos excused herself and glided over. The proposal they were about to discuss would have been considered radical under the old order, a galaxy-wide technology-sharing initiative, allowing all species to benefit from each other's innovations. The very concept would have been heretical to the former assembly. "The final draft includes additional safeguards," Santos explained, pulling up the document. Every participating world gets equal access to the database, but there are strong provisions against weapons of mass destruction. We've learned from our own history. Chen nodded approvingly. Humanity's rise to prominence hadn't led them to repeat the mistakes of their predecessors. Instead, they were helping to build something new. A galactic society where strength came from cooperation rather than domination. In Earth's orbital shipyards, the humanity's wake was being refitted yet again. But this time, it wasn't for war. The evolutionary steel of its hull now housed laboratories and diplomatic facilities. The ship that had demonstrated humanity's power would now showcase their commitment to peace. Dr. Lisa Chen supervised the installation of a new xenobiology research center aboard the vessel. "We're ready to begin the joint adaptation studies," she reported to her sister. "The Mursk have some fascinating theories about accelerated evolution that complement our own research." Meanwhile, in the Himalayan facility, Dr. Maya Patel worked with a diverse team of scientists from across the galaxy. The quantum fabrication chamber now produced materials that combined the best aspects of multiple species technologies. The latest iteration of evolutionary steel incorporated drachnid crystalline matrices and Genry phase-shifting properties. "We were all hiding something," a Mursk engineer remarked as they examined the results. "All of us who were dismissed as inferior or primitive, we each developed our own secret advantages." Maya smiled. "The difference was, we planned for how to use those advantages to unite rather than conquer." In the assembly hall, now renamed the Coalition Forum, Chen stood to address the gathered representatives. The chamber's new design emphasized openness and equality, with advanced translation systems ensuring perfect understanding between all species. "A year ago, we faced a choice," she began. "We could have used our hidden strength to dominate, to become what we had fought against. Instead, we chose a harder path. We chose to build bridges where others had built walls." The assembled representatives, representing hundreds of species from across the galaxy, listened intently. Many of them had their own stories of discrimination and resistance. All of them had chosen to be part of something new. "Earth taught us that survival doesn't mean defeating everyone else," Chen continued. "It means adapting, cooperating, finding ways to thrive together. Yes, we evolved on a death world. Yes, that made us strong. But it also taught us the most important lesson of all. No one survives alone." As she spoke, news arrived from the fringes of known space. Another group of species, long hidden from assembly oversight, had requested coalition membership. They too had developed in secret, waiting for a chance to join a galaxy where they would be valued rather than judged. The age of deception was over. The time of hidden strengths had passed. In its place, a new era was beginning, one where being from a death world didn't mark you as primitive, but as someone who had learned the true meaning of civilization, the wisdom to use strength not for dominance, but for growth. As the Coalition Forum erupted in applause, Chen looked out at the faces of former enemies turned allies, of the dismissed and diminished now standing proud. Humanity had stopped playing nice, yes, but only to show the galaxy a better way to play.